A lot of people are afraid of pivot tables, but honestly they're super easy. You just need to play around with it a little bit. So in this video, I'm going to show you a crash course on how to use pivot tables so you'll be an expert in no time. So let's say we want to use this table. We have the region, the associate, the company size, and the total sales. And we want to quickly see how many sales happen in each region, in each company size. That's a perfect use for a pivot table. The main way that you'll see a pivot table created is that you'll select the header, then go down through the end of the data, then go to Insert Pivot Table. And you can either insert it into a new sheet, which will create a new tab, or it can go into an existing sheet, which is what I'll do here to keep things nice and clean. I'll put it in G2, then hit OK. And then we'll hit Create. Over to the right, you'll see a pivot table editor pop up. And then from here, it's really just a drag and drop. So remember what we wanted to see was the total sales for each region and each company size. So we have two different criteria that we want to see, region and company size. So one will need to go in the rows and one will need to go in the columns. And then the values will be the total sales because that's what we want to aggregate. So let's go ahead and drop the region in rows, and then we'll drop the company size in columns. And then the total sales will drop under values. So just like that, we have a quick summary of exactly how much was sold in each region and each company size. And it also shows the grand total and grand total. If you don't want to see the grand total, you can simply uncheck show totals, and it will only show you the data itself. Now, what if you wanted to see the average instead? By default, it goes to sum, but you can summarize by average instead. So we can see the average for each company in each region exactly just like that. Now the gist is the exact same, but only selecting the data that's currently there is very, very dangerous because if something is added later on, it may not be included. So for example, let's say North. We'll say my name, so Olin Chansey. Let's say I am a small business and the total sales is whatever this is. So $10 million. You can see right here, we have nowhere near $10 million. And the reason why is because we're only going through the 26th row, but the data that I just added is in 27. So in order to fix that, you'd have to go into your pivot table manually, change it to 27, and then now it will be included and you'll see that it's adjusted, including the one I just added. Now this is super dangerous because you don't want to have any issues with data integrity. So the better way to do it is this. Instead of selecting just the cells that have data, we're going to select the entire columns instead. Now if I go to Insert Pivot Table, I'll go ahead and select the existing sheet and do the same exact thing that I just did essentially, but right here. And I'll hit Create. Now you can see these are blank, and that's because up here we have a row that's blank. So you can do one of two things. One, you can adjust the range to start in B2 all the way through E, and then you'll be able to see the title. Or you could delete row 1, and then it will automatically populate with what's there. Now let's go ahead and add the details just like we did before. So let's put region, company size, total sales. And now you're going to see the same thing that you had before, but we also have this region that's blank. And the reason why that region is blank is because we have all these cells down here that are blank. And this is what scares a lot of people from incorporating data that's not there, and that's why they go through just the data that's there. But with this trick, you'll know better. So we're always going to have a region. So I'm going to go ahead and drag region under filters. Then under status, show all items, we're going to click on that. Then one mistake people make is they go ahead and remove the blanks by unselecting blank and hitting OK. And yes, that does this. But let's say that we went ahead and put Southwest, for example. Even though Southwest is in the name, it's not going to be inside the pivot table. And that's because we have specific items selected. And when we unchecked blanks, it also prevented future information from being able to be added. So I could add it manually, or we could do it differently. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that back to South. Now, instead I'm going to select all 5 items, so that way everything that's included is going to be included, and everything that's added later on will also be included. And I'm going to open Filter by Condition. I'll click on None, and in the drop down, I'm going to select Is Not Empty. So that way it only includes things that are not empty. So once I select that, you'll see that those blanks disappeared because those are empty, and everything is good. But if I were to add Southwest here again, it will automatically populate because we're selecting every single region that's in the range. Now let's say that you manage all regions, but you don't do any enterprise. You only do small business and mid-market. You could filter manually by going to company size, dropping that under filters. And then here, we don't have anything that we want to add later on. So we can simply uncheck blanks in enterprise, and we'll only have small business and mid-market. And that's all that you'll see right there. Now what if you wanted small business over to the left and mid-market over to the right? By default, it's ordering by ascending, which means alphabetical, but instead we could do descending, which is right there. So now we have small business, then mid-market. And what if we want to see the highest grossing regions up top and then going down from there? Instead of sorting by the region, inside alphabetical order, we can sort by the total sums. So now when I press this, we can say the grand total. And once again, by default, it's sorting by ascending. So in this case, it's sorting from 0 and increasing from there. But we can change that to descending, and then it will show the top performing regions all the way down to the bottom. Now right now, we have all the regions to the left, and we have the company size to the top. But we don't have to have it that way. We could have everything in the rows. So right here, we have the East region, and then everything, enterprise and small business, and the total sales for that region. You can click on the minus or click on the plus. And then we have North, we have South, and West. Now you can click on the plus or minus individually to collapse or not, or you can collapse everything in the region right here to see just the region, or you can expand by saying expand all in the region. So same data, just a different way of doing it. Now let's say that North and East has one regional manager and South and West has a different regional manager. We can create a custom group. So we can click on East and North, and you can hold down Option or Control to select each individually. Right click and select Create Pivot Group. And then here we can rename it. So Manager 1, for example. And then down here, we can do the same exact thing. Right click, Create Pivot Group, and Manager 2, for example. So now we have Manager 1, Manager 2, and we have each region. If we don't want to see the regions, we don't have to. We can simply go to our pivot table editor, exit out of region, and now we can see Manager 1 and what their total is for each different company size for all the regions that they manage. So that's a super cool and quick way to group pivot table data that people don't actually know about. And that's essentially it. So let's do a quick crash course on my content planner. So right here, I have all my different past content that I've posted on my channels throughout the past however long I've been using this. So what I want to see is how many of each type I have posted, and I want to group it by the quarter that I posted it. So I'm going to select A through E, go to Insert, Pivot Table. In this case, I want to add a new sheet, and then I want to see the type, so we'll go ahead and put that in row, and then the delivery date. So let's put that under columns. Now we get an error because I have a whole bunch of different dates on my list, and there's just simply not enough columns to incorporate one per day. But here's a little hack for you. We can go ahead and filter the day. So I'm going to filter it for just one single day so I have enough room. So I went ahead and press clear to clear everything. Then I'm going to check one day, and now we have that one day right here. I'm going to right click and click Create Pivot Day Group, and I'm going to select year and quarter. So now instead of showing that one date, it's showing the quarter that date fell in. And now that I have it grouped by dates, I can simply exit out of that filter. And now we have all the different quarters right there. Right now we have no values. So the value is actually going to be content idea. And instead of summarizing it, we're simply counting it. And you can also select count unique. So if there's multiple that have the same exact name, it only counts once. But in this case, each individual is a different item. Now, just like last time, we have that blank row. So I'm going to drop type under filters. And just like last time, we're going to filter by condition and is not empty. Hit OK. And now we have exactly what we need. So now I have a quick summary of exactly how many I posted each quarter. Now it looks like I only posted one in Q2 when I started using it. So under delivery post date, I'm going to drag that under filter. And I'm going to say filter by condition. And then I will say date is after. And I'll say exact date. And Q3 starts in July, so I'll put 7/1/2024. And I'm doing 7 first because I do month, day, year. But you can add the date to whatever format you're in. So now I got rid of that, and I just see Q3, Q4, Q1, Q2, and Q3. Now if I want to see the data behind this information, so for example, if I want to see all long videos I posted in Q1 2025, I can simply double click on that cell, and it will show me exactly what videos I posted that are in that category. And it will open up a new tab each time you do that, so make sure you delete the tab, otherwise you'll have a whole bunch of useless tabs that you don't really care about. And one last thing I want to mention is if your data is formatted as a table, so it looks like this, instead of selecting the range, you can simply select anywhere into the table, go to Insert, Pivot Table, and then select wherever you want, and it's going to include everything. So that way you don't have to worry about if the rows change, if the columns change, whatever. Since you can see right here, it doesn't show a range, it shows the actual table name instead. It will include everything. So if I were to add Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, or whatever, and have 4 more different columns, it's going to be included in this without having to make any adjustments. So that's a good hack to be able to make sure you always include everything. Now, if you want to move a pivot table, click on the very top left corner, and you can copy it, and you can paste wherever you want. And now you have that pivot table. If you were to just copy part of it and paste it, it will paste the details, but not the actual pivot table itself. And if you want to delete a pivot table, you can simply go to the very top left, hit delete. Now, I went ahead and just reformatted this a little bit just to show you how to use a slicer. And I'll explain why I had to reformat it in a second. But a slicer is a way to quickly slice and dice your data without having to go in and editing and filtering manually each time. So for example, you can click into anywhere in the pivot table, go to Data, add a slicer, and then let's say we want to filter by the company size. We can go ahead and select that. And now we can filter right here. So we can say mid-market only, for example, and it will filter all this data by just the mid-market. You can have multiple going on at one time. So we can go ahead and copy this, for example. Let's paste it, and let's double click. Let's say the region, and let's say mid-market and north. So you can see just the north and just in mid-market. Now you can see right here we have that blank one showing again. And that's because when we change the region here, it voids out any filter we have going on right here. So a pro tip if you're using slicers is to select an option of filter that will not be a slicer. So let's say instead I do the associates. I say is not empty, and now we're good to go just like normal. And what's cool about this is you can go ahead and do multiple, for example, too. So let's say both north and south. We can say mid-market and small business. So you can kind of slice and dice the data however you want. And what's also cool is if you have a chart that's built off of a pivot table, whenever you slice the data here, it will automatically update right here. Now, another pro tip is if you have a table that's built off, you don't really want to have these grand totals. So let's go ahead and uncheck these grand totals. So now it will just show the north and the south, and then you can put whatever you want for these. So that way the graph is properly proportioned because you don't have a whole big line for the totals populating. So pretty cool. Now back to the reason why I had to reformat this a little bit to show you how to do that is if you have this selected in line with the table, whenever you select different options, some of this information will disappear. So for example, if I want to not see small business, this south is going to disappear. So let's say I want to do just mid-market and enterprise. So south disappeared because the row that contains that small business is gone. If your data is on an entirely different tab, don't worry, you won't run into that. But if your pivot table and your data are on the same tab, be careful where you place them. All right, so that's a crash course on pivot tables. And that's really all you need to know to be super powerful. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions and like and comment for more.